he's pretty excited about it.
Last time we went out on Friday.
Yeah, sometime can we get together with the new guy and have lunch? And-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Let's have some ideas.
Okay.
So-
Walking today, so we walked all the way
I'm
from
sure
our
he
house
would like
clear
that.
down to that
Where does he
power
come
pot things right behind
Kokomo.
McDonald's.
Oh, yeah.
And walked
His
around
wife
that
lived
for a
down there.
while
She's a
and
nurse.
walked back.
So,
Did you
uh,
walk
they're
on the new?
Not here
sidewalk
yet, but
part?
planning to move here. So, okay.
Oops, it's 7 o'clock. All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Welcome all to Common Council meeting, last day of the month. Appreciate pivoting from meeting was scheduled next Monday. We'll start with the invocation. Councilman Gross.
Let's pray. Father, we pause to thank you for this day. I look at the agenda for this evening, and I think of the private sector. I think of the taxpayers in this community. I thank you for their willingness and just support for public services. I also think about the employees that work for this great city. Appreciate them greatly. I ask now that as we as a board look at the agenda, deal with the issues tonight, sharp minds, humble hearts. In Christ's name I pray, amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you, Jeff. Let the minutes reflect all council members are present in person. We are joined by our city attorney, Scott Royst, on go-to meeting, so he is privy to our discussions and is available if needed. All right, let's start with item, the approval of the minutes from September 20th. Which have been presented in your board pack, and ask if there are any questions, and if not, is there a motion to approve them as presented? Jerry, make a motion to approve them. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Cindy. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Passed unanimous. Thank you. I'd like to welcome our visitors tonight. Well, we got 3.
You guys.
Is that your pen?
No.
All right. Lynn, anything from your neck of the woods?
Well, there is sort of, the State Board of Accounts came in today for an audit, and we're gonna have our entrance conference on October 14th at 10 o'clock, and we need to have someone from the council there. You are all welcome to come, or if you want to elect someone to come, or if someone wants to volunteer, just let me know.
Lynn, would you explain kind of the routine nature of these audits as we accept federal funds, how that works?
So they're auditing 2 years, and it's 2019 and 2020. In 2019, we didn't have any, we didn't meet the threshold of receiving federal money. So it's not going to be a federal audit, but in 2020, we did because of the CARES Act money. So it will be a federal audit, and they just make sure that everything checks out and all our expenditures are accounted for correctly, and all the money coming in is accounted for correctly. And I'm sure they'll have a few comments here and there.
They always do.
What date is that?
October 10th, I'm sorry, 14th, I think it's a Thursday.
So again, these are routine audits that are triggered by our acceptance of federal funds, and it's part of the process. Lynn, your clerk treasurer's office always does a great job getting the information for them, and we've, at least as long as I've been around, we've always had a very clean exit conference, so assume that we'll have the same thing this time.
Yeah, and this is just the entrance conference, then we'll have an exit conference when they're finished.
Well, that's what I meant, the exit
Okay.
conference.
Okay.
I would hope we don't have trouble in the exit conference, or the entrance conference.
Just let me know who might be coming for that October 14th meeting
All right.
at 10.
Any questions? Okay. Well, with that, there's no unfinished business. Let's jump into new business. You will remember that at our last meeting, all 4 of these salary ordinances were introduced. There was no action taken. We had some discussion, and we're here tonight. These first 3 ordinances have to be approved by the November 1, and the elected officials' ordinance has to be approved by the end of the year. So what we're asking tonight is for a review and the first vote. But with that, I'll turn it over to Jennifer, and I think, again, Jennifer, you went through some of the changes. The governance committees is listed. The quarterly HSA contributions are listed as changes from last year in this first general salary ordinance.
You are correct, and also the employee contribution for benefits was reduced due to a
Yes.
good experience mod with us and the whole trust combined. So when we presented last council ordinance 2021-0901, we have not made any changes or corrections or anything to that from when we talked about it the last meeting.
So I will open it up to the council if there are questions.
I had an interesting conversation with Jennifer recently about concerns I heard from department heads to, in regards to losing employees, key employees to local industries and businesses, even other local governmental agencies. And she has informed me that in some instances, the people that have left thinking the grass is greener on the other side have migrated back to the city, which gave me hope that we're not going to be losing employees over salary. And I asked her if she was comfortable with this. She is. And I'll let you take it from there if you want to fill in some blanks. But I was glad to hear that.
Right.
Because we're only as good as the people we have working for us.
You are correct. We did have a conversation, and probably the last 3, maybe 4 individuals who did leave, they asked and requested and reapplied to return back to the city, and we hired them. Great employees. Anyway, so, yeah, it's
I
worked.
just want to make a comment that for as long as I've been here, Jennifer and the salary committee have used data, used external data, used the Wagner-Shealy external study, the IX salary studies and comparison surveys, and the wage committee is on this thing. If we see that there's areas that we're lagging behind, the wage committee's done a great job trying to even things out. We talked this year that we can't do it all at once, but I feel like there's always, especially in this day and age with the way wage inflation is occurring because of the high unemployment and difficulty in the workforce. So it's a tough time. Mm-hmm. And I think the wage committee's done a marvelous job with Jennifer to try and be responsive to that. And I'd ask the wage committee if they have any comments, because you guys are really the ones that have borne the brunt of this.
And I think one of the things that we've tried to look at over the last couple of years too is, rewarding those employees that have stepped up and gotten additional certifications, additional training and so forth. And so I think that's been a focus, has it not, for the last couple of years anyway, and I'm sure will continue to be.
Right.
Another thing, a choice we had this year was looking at the overall raise and the benefit package, and we take those things together. So I think that's what employees are finding when they leave. They think, oh, I'm going to make more money, and then when the paycheck comes home, they're actually making less money because their benefits are so costly. So one of the things that we chose to do this year was rather than bump it up as high as like you might see the county having bumped up theirs, we chose to give the savings to the employees in their pockets with their insurance premium. Because I think for our employees at the lower levels, it's all about what they bring home so they can feed their families and get their kids school supplies and keep everybody in shoes and all those kind of things. So that's something that the wage committee too has historically looked at, is what is really coming home in somebody's paycheck, not just making a grandiose gesture to give a lot of money that then maybe is taken away because we have to raise other things in order to do that. So this year, our choice was to do what we could to reduce. We wanted to hold the line, and then when we got the good news, we were actually able to decrease the employee contributions to their insurance. So that's going to be more money in people's pockets, and we just really have felt like that's important as well.
A couple of the positions that I'm really concerned about, and I've got on my radar, is the individuals who are holding those CDLs, the construction, the ones who are, that have that training and that talent and that ability to put lines in the ground, do curb work for us, do asphalt things. We, as you know, we have a Wagner study, a wage analysis that has been out, and I thank you all for doing that this year instead of the target date for next year. And I'm not going to be surprised when I see those positions really kind of climb up on that wage scale. What I am noticing, because everyone is scrambling for a certain laborious type of position right now, is that I'm starting to see the wages compress because we have to be competitive with other private sectors, Fenn and Brown, G&G hauling, things like that, or places like that that are also looking for that talent. And even general laborers are getting a little bit harder to hire in, and so we're having to bring those wages up a little bit higher now, whereas before we were able to put those down and they're all just coming together. And we need to get back to that stair step. We need to get back to those separation according to the point system that we follow and the scales. So.
Yeah, and again, it's
But it'll
just
take
not
time.
reactive,
No,
what
it'll
you guys
absolutely
do.
take time.
It's based on the numbers.
Yes.
And the data, and you provide oodles of data to
Yes, I
the
do.
group. And they're able to plow through that and make good decisions. So, thank you for your comments, appreciate that. Any other questions or comments?
I'd like to thank the Wage Committee for working on this again. It's such a balancing act. We have to a degree, compete with the private sector because we want good employees. We want to give them a fair wage. On the other hand, the city is not as capable of growing the amount of money that can come in to pay for those employees. That makes it really tough on the other end, too.
Sure does.
So I want to thank the Wage Committee for doing a really good job of compensating our employees the best way that we can. In my many years in my previous life, we always struggled with being the trainer of the orthopedic industry because it seemed like we couldn't keep up with the wages, and we were just, it was almost a revolving door at times until we could grow our business enough that we could hang on to them. But it's a real struggle. I hope the employees appreciate the work of the Wage Committee as much as I do.
Just another note, too, that I would like to point out and make everybody aware is those CDLs. I know I keep on talking about those right now, but they are not going to slow it down, and they are proceeding at the first of the year that anybody who has to get a CDL has to go through a school now. Right now, we're training them in-house, and we're sending them to BMV, we're sending them to testing locations to get those CDLs, and it is not going to be able, we can't do that anymore. So it's going to cost the individual, they're saying, predicting anywhere from $5,000 to $7,000 to get a CDL. Right off the bat, depending on if you want a B, an A, hazardous, anything. So that's why that is really on my
And
radar.
that's a regulatory change.
That's federal, that is department, yeah, we're not gonna be able to get around that. But it's just not gonna be the city, it's gonna be everywhere.
That's-
So those CDLs are going to be the golden ticket, and I just, I appreciate the Wage Committee and everyone helping me keep an eye on that and understand that that's gonna be very important.
Do you know offhand how many employees we have that require a CDL?
Probably, I bet you we probably have 35 to 40. I know everyone at the street department just about has one. Your trash trucks, your snow plows, your heavy equipment, that's just what it is. Every maintenance person at wastewater has one. Thank goodness they didn't make the fire department get something this time around, although that has been talked about for several years in the past. So we missed that. We have a couple at park department because they have big dump trucks. We've got an individual at the cemetery who has a CDL. He transferred from the police department. Yeah, there's several, but when we lose them, it takes a long time to replace them because we're having to hire somebody in without one because we aren't able to compete with someone that has one right now. And then we train them, and sometimes they leave. Like, we're the training ground, as you were saying, so.
And
I'm
it
gonna-
obviously just contributes to the wage inflation when it costs them
Absolutely.
$5,000 to get a CDL.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
So this, as I said, you all have done a great job reacting in a very tough year. We got to hold on.
Yeah,
and see what's next.
I am very anxious to get that study back from Wagner. Very study, yeah. Anyway.
All right.
So back to.
Is there a motion to approve ordinance 2021-0901 on first reading?
So moved.
Moved by Josh. Is there a second?
I move. I second it.
Second by Jack. All right. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Passed unanimously. I would certainly entertain a motion to suspend the rules if that's your desire. We do have another meeting before the deadline of passing this, so it's certainly your call. And I'm just happy to leave it at that. And if there's no motion, we'll just move on, because we do have another meeting.
I personally feel okay with it because we've had this for a while to look at.
I would agree with that.
But I, of course, I've been staring at it for months, but we did get the final product to look at it. You guys are saying, okay, I'll
Save
make a
some time
motion
next
that we
meeting.
I'm
suspend.
going to make a
the
motion to
rules.
suspend the rules by Diane. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right,
And
now I
I'll
would
make a motion
approve.
to
Yes,
approve 2019-0902 on second reading.
2021-0901.
Sorry,
Yeah, that's okay.
Two's
Yeah.
okay, too.
I'm looking right at it, too.
On second reading,
1 second, okay.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, passes unanimously on second and final reading.
Good job.
Thank
Who
you.
did the second on that? I'm sorry.
Jeff?
Jack.
Jeff?
All right, let's move on to item number 2. This would be ordinance 2021-0902. This would be the police department salary ordinance. As was discussed at the last meeting, Jennifer did break this down so that you all understood the makeup of the total wage. The biweekly wage is a function of the base patrol plus the rank incentive, and that's clearly shown on this ordinance. It's not anything different other than it's broken out for you to see. as suggested, the IT governance clauses in there, the quarterly amounts of HSA contributions, as well as the reduced medical contributions are listed as well. Jennifer, any comments or changes from?
Nope. So everything that we presented and talked about last meeting, there have been no changes. Again, just kind of addressing that when we split out, showing the different rank amounts and the base patrol officer's wage, that would allow the council and the wage committee to, kind of concentrate in the future, in the next few years or so, to try to get a little bit more separation in between those ranks. I'm a firm believer that, you do more, you should be paid more. So as responsibilities have been added to positions, I think that it's fair that we recognize that. Maybe not take everybody up at once. That's the base patrol officer's wage, but definitely the ranks in the future.
Jennifer, I know I asked you last time to enumerate those new specialty pays that were put on here. Could you do that again?
Sure. So
Please.
the existing ones, it might be easier to do it that
Okay.
way, is your PIO, your public information officer, your training coordinator, the animal control code enforcement, and the pension secretary. Those have been established for a few years. We have added some others. This has actually been kind of on the radar for a couple years, at least with the chief and some others in the wage committee. Talked about it here and there. I think it's okay to do that. Recognize them for their hard work and their talents.
Another thing that we did with this one was to put it at a quarterly
Yes.
remuneration, so that if we do lose employees, if we train them really well and they leave, they haven't already cashed in for the whole year on their specialty.
Yes.
Smart.
And plus,
So-
plus we can reward the ones who obtain those certifications and that training mid-year, or even, quarters or
And also, there might be a need to switch somebody around, or, a better utilization of personnel, depending on who we have at the time. So we felt like this gave more flexibility in that area as well.
All right. Other comments or questions?
I move to approve 210902.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made by Jeff, seconded by Cindy. Ordinance 2021-0902. Is there any further discussion, questions, comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And again, with that, I would entertain a motion to suspend the rules if that be your pleasure.
I move to suspend the rules of order and pass on second reading.
So we'll vote to suspend the rules. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, now,
I move to approve on second reading ordinance 210902.
2021-0902.
210902, yes, sir.
All right,
I'll second.
further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 3 would be ordinance 2021-0903, which is the fire department salary ordinance. All of the changes from prior year are similar to the police department. IT governance, insurance benefits, specialty pays paid quarterly, and the reduced employee health contributions, health insurance contributions.
You are correct. And the specialty pay, the pension secretary, that remained the same. We've had that for several years. I believe that is actually code that we have to have one. So the advanced EMT, recognizing them, the dive team member, Swiftwater Rescue, only one, and then the TRT member, to recognize their efforts and their skill and their training. It's a very important part of the fire department, and I think we need to recognize that.
All right. Questions, comments? All right, hearing none, is there a motion to consider ordinance 2021-0903?
I move to accept ordinance 2021-0903.
Motion made by Jack, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Jerry. Further discussion, questions, comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes unanimously. And again, I would ask if you're willing to suspend the rules, if that's your pleasure. If not, we can move ahead.
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules.
Motion by Diane to suspend the rules. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Cindy. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Now we'll entertain ordinance, second reading of ordinance 2021-0903 with the rules suspended.
I'll make a motion, we approve ordinance 2021-0903 on second reading.
Motion made by Diane. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Jerry. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 4 would be the elected officials salary ordinance. And again, I think the same, there's obviously no IT governance clause in this ordinance. However, there is the little bit better articulated insurance benefits in there, as well as the reduced contributions for health insurance. Again, this does not need to be approved till the end of the year. This basically reflects the same salary increase that was just approved for the general police and fire salary ordinances, which is 3.5%. I would ask Jennifer if you have any comments on this ordinance.
So you're absolutely correct that about adding in the HSA contributions for the employee and then also the reduced medical insurance. Wages were just increased with everyone else. As I mentioned last meeting, council can approve or kind of look at that a little bit closer if they so choose. Councilman Clondaris and I have had a little bit of a conversation, even as of today, and he's got some really good ideas. And yeah, we were talking about the wages and how they compress, and doing a little bit more, and the different boards that you sit on, and the time that you spend, and resources, and
So I'll pick it up from there. I have no scripted notes here. This is all from here. This is something that's been on my mind for the last couple of years. And, how many of us have been in a situation where you see something you like, but I'm not gonna buy that for myself. But then you might turn around and buy it for a loved one, a family member, a friend. But you don't want to spend the money on yourself. Nobody can, this council has to approve all wages, including our own. And I think sometimes there's a perception that if you do something for yourself out of the ordinary, that it's self-serving, and the perception cannot sometimes be, it may look self-serving, it may look bad, but I have a couple arguments that I'd like to, if you'll indulge me, to make to this council. I've been on this council now for 10 years. When I came on, I didn't really know anything about what it paid. I wasn't really that interested in that. I just knew that I wanted to serve. I also didn't know how much time that I would be putting in serving the community. And it's quite substantial. I attend a lot of meetings. I answer all my phone calls from constituents. I go to their homes. I go to their businesses. I use my own car, my own gas, my own computer, my own cell phone, my own printer, my own ink, my own time, because I spend a lot of time talking with you all, talking with constituents, talking with department heads. And I think it's time that, in the course of the 10 years, we've given ourselves exactly what we've given everybody else because we want to be fair and equal, and I get it. However, we are the bottom feeders. We are the lowest paid people in the whole city. The city couldn't function without this body. I think we need to realize our value and the time and commitment that we make. We don't do this for prestige or honor. We do it because we want to serve, but we need to be compensated for the time that we put in to serve. We're willing to give the police department a 10% raise this year. When you think of all the things, this council, I think we worked our rear ends off. When you think of all the things that we have done in the time that I've been here, the 10 years that I've been here, we've built a new fire station, we've built a new sewage facility, we've given, special raises to our police department, we've given raises to the IT governance committee, we really try to take care of our people, we buy equipment, we spend money on everybody but ourselves. And I think it's time that we do realize our value and give ourselves that once-in-a-decade bump to get us up to where I feel we need to be. And if we give ourselves a 3% raise, gosh, we're going to give ourselves like an extra $4 a week, guys. Come on. So I've been thinking how to do this. And in what amount. So the formula that I have come up with in my mind, and this is all for debate, and that's why I am glad we don't have to pass this ordinance tonight or maybe in the next couple of meetings, because I want to spark a debate amongst ourselves. I would propose, and this is my first proposal just out of the gate, that we give our council a raise equal to the dollar amount we're willing to give a raise to the mayor. And I think that's a fair way to do it. I have a sheet that Jennifer was kind enough to share with me. Shows mayoral salaries, council president salaries, council member salaries, clerk salaries. And we are sort of kind of at the bottom of the numbers that I see here in front of me. By doing this, I think it would bring us up to where we need to be. I don't feel we can keep giving ourselves a 3% raise based on a low number. So that's my speech. I don't need a reply. If anybody has any other thoughts, I'd love to hear them. I've talked to a couple of you briefly about how I feel. And, I'm not doing this really for myself, although I would be included in it. But going forward, when, if we're going to attract talent, if we want people to come in and serve, they need to be compensated. We all are on more committees than we ever have been. We spend more time than we ever have talking about issues amongst ourselves. I feel that it's time, like I said, once in a decade bump.
Well, I kind of agree with Mike on this. If there's one thing I think that possibly one person that should be certainly given a little bit extra is the president of the council. Because I know that he comes in to
Or
meet.
she.
Yeah, he or she comes in to meet with the mayor and discusses a lot of things. So he should be paid extra for that, I
And I
think.
thought of that too, Jerry.
Yeah.
So I'm in agreement with you there.
That was one of my thoughts too. And as to some of the other things that you said, I think it warrants having further discussion about it, Mike.
It's a hard thing to do. It is. But I think it needs to be done.
We did not, as a wage committee, look at current remuneration for mayor, clerk, treasurer, or common council this year.
Not this year.
We did not do that. So, I mean, that's something that we could look at. One of the things that we do need to take into consideration is that many councils do not get insurance. So they do not have the opportunity to get the employee benefit. And I know that everybody here doesn't take it, but it is a quite substantial amount of money. So last time when we undertook doing this, we had to call every, once we picked our 10 cities, we had to call all of them and find out what the council actually got, so that we could be comparing apples to apples. So it would take some time, but if we're going to do this in the way we've done all the other things, I guess it would be doing a salary survey and looking to see, what people are getting out there. The mayor did not ask for a raise, so we didn't ask the clerk treasurer if she wanted one. But we just left that for this year because we were so concerned about our employees.
I think we kind of would have to look at it in some depth too, as to how many meetings a month, the extra duties and so forth. So it would take a little bit of work, but I think we can do it.
Uncomfortable with it, but as a member of the wage committee and the senior member on this council that has served, plus I read a few books every now and then, my day job, it might be, like Cindy has just said, and Diane, thanks, Mike, for your comments, and again, we've talked about this many times before, might be a good idea for the wage committee to take a look at it if the council, the mayor, clerk treasurer, are wanting us to do it with HR, look at it next year, and ideally it would be good to put it into play after the next election. That way, all of us can tell the community, here is what we believe. If we decide to do so, a major correction, not just the normal day-to-day, it will be the next council that comes in after an election. The people have spoken.
It's a good thought.
And then it goes into play. It's actually a pretty good time because we review it next year. You got 23 as the election cycle.
Right.
And so you'd be about a year away from actually doing it, but you'd have all that information. Obviously, you could say, no, let's do it today. But I just like the idea that there would be a lot of study, review, the wage committee, if again, the charge was given, it'd be proposed and it would be ready to be put into play. And I really would feel more comfortable if it was after an election. The people, all of us would have to tell the community, the next person in this seat, the correction will come into play, whether it's the incumbent or you decide to put a new council member in. So, thank you. That's also why I would support the ordinance as presented by the wage committee for this year, this one that we're looking at. But again, appreciate everybody's comments, and it's been percolating, I think, for several years, so.
I would be willing to support looking into it. I'm very adverse to raising something that I would be benefiting from, for all the reasons that have been shown and talked about. But I would look at it. I would be willing to look at it.
Well, good. At least I started the conversation.
Any concerns or objections to the ordinance as presented for this year? Comments, again, greatly appreciated, but any reservations on action? I would like to take action, but I don't want to make a motion unless everybody's done their comments.
Well, it's not necessary to approve it right now, right?
It is not.
So it gives, what, we got 2 months to talk about it?
In 2 readings, yeah,
Yeah.
this one, yeah.
Okay,
I'd prefer to wait.
yeah, I would too.
I think I would too.
So no vote, no first reading vote tonight even?
No,
No?
not me.
Okay.
Well, it's on the agenda, I'd ask for motion to table it.
And okay, before, and I'm not going to table it, so somebody else would have to do it. That would mean that the wage committee would have to meet October, November, go through everything to make the proposal. And as a member of the wage committee, that's a concern of mine, so.
Yeah, the only thing really would be slowing us down is if by some reason we think that we're going to be able to do it this year, which I would not be in favor of raising it this year. I support Jeff's measured approach to looking at it, maybe addressing it next year with the idea that it would come in effect after the next election. I think that is the more prudent way to do it. And because I feel that way, I'm not opposed to taking action on this even tonight.
And I do believe we would also have to consider the clerk treasurer and the mayor. They also are elected officials. And so that is a big job too, in this short amount of time. Just,
I'm not sure what you're saying. I mean, the numbers are already here. What would you have to go back and redo?
major.
If you wanted us to do a salary survey across the state, then we'd have to do it, what we've done before, and do a survey of all those cities. And then again, we have to call all of them because different cities give different benefits to their elected officials. So the question before us is whether we would be making any change to what we see before us, right, for this year. And if we're not, we might as well go ahead and pass it, but give the wage committee the charge to start looking into this and bringing back a report to you then. So if we're not thinking about changing this before December 31st, then we would go with this. Does that
There
make sense?
appears to be differing opinions, and certainly respect that. I would probably suggest that we take a vote one way or the other to see what the next step would be, unless you want to try and work it out before you take a vote. It's certainly your call.
I think what I would like to do is, just personally me, I would like to just contemplate a little more on this, not do anything. And, I mean, we have time. I think, 2 weeks, maybe we can talk amongst ourselves, bounce ideas off of each other. Doesn't mean we're going to change it. Doesn't mean we're going to amend it. We may leave it as it is, but I would just like to have that simmering time, if you want to call it that. Just let it simmer and think about it
So are you
to
wanting
the next time.
Are you wanting to increase it this year? That's really what it boils down to.
I think we should. but I see what Jeff is saying, and I just don't want to get, I guess it just comes from being a business owner, you want to move forward, and I don't want to get hung up in analysis paralysis, as they say. That's why I guess I'd like to just buy another 2 weeks, think about it, see if this is what we want to run with, and if we do, I'm good with that. But I just want to have that 2-week window.
I think I would like to think too about what was mentioned about the council president, perhaps, and we don't know who
Maybe
that
that's
might be
one thing
next
we
year.
can get done this year.
That might be.
Because I agree with Jerry. Diane and Jack and I have been in that seat, and yeah, it does take extra time. It does.
And just-
That might be a good starting point.
And just looking at maybe some older wage surveys and so forth, I do remember seeing that sometimes the council president does get a
Yeah,
little bit of.
and you know what, guys? When I thought about this, I was gonna say, I don't wanna compare ourselves to any of these places. I don't know what they do. I don't know how they think. I don't know how much time they spend. I just know what we do. And I know that we have done a lot. And we're a pretty dynamic city, and we're a pretty dynamic council. And I think we underestimate ourselves, given what we are paid. I'll leave it at that.
Related to what you're saying too is, in my plus 20 years, when Mayor Tolmer and I started, we met once a month. And now we meet twice a month, and it does save us you remember, Mayor, the 3.5, 4-hour meetings sometimes when we met once a month. But again, it's coming in more often. That's been a change. And then also, one of the best things, you mentioned the wage committee, we have, because of leadership here, we've established so many committees that I believe have benefited us on so many fronts.
Enormously.
Big time. And that we never did either. And it does take time. And it's a lot of work, but it's you're a council member, and it's that kind of thing. But legit, because you look at Article 2, and we may be influenced by state code, I don't know exactly, but you can see that there's only 4 boards that are receiving extra pay. And those are boards, and they're public, but again, there is a lot of work with the committees and what's going on. So that, again, could be considered, but
And you can't compensate for those committees. So I think the only way to
Right.
do it is to bump up the
Well,
general
that's-
pay. and-
That's where I'm saying
Yeah.
the exercise to look at it.
Yeah.
But again, the time crunch now for next year, and then the danger, now this could be good, this could be bad, and I could be wrong on my little calculator here, but dollar amount to the mayor, I think my calculator said 33% raise.
33%.
33% jump for
Oh,
us.
well, I
And so-
was just going by dollar amount,
Well,
because
that's-
I thought that would bring us up to where we, in my opinion, where this council needs to be.
But again, that's where I would say to you that if it's even right, and again, I was just, as you were talking, I was trying to figure out, okay, what would that be? And looking at the numbers that I had.
It probably is,
But-
maybe.
I want to step in for a minute. I just want to remind you all that the budgets have been set with the 3.5%. If there's an increase, there would have to be an additional appropriation.
Okay.
Good, so which again, just takes me at this point, why, and again, Jack's comments, supporting and with me here, I believe, I think it should be wage committee, it should be thoroughly studied, every elected official, ramifications. I think the danger might be 2 weeks, does sound like a long time, but you talk to anybody on the wage committee. Okay, and then the ability to make all these changes. I just think now, but we do consider, if there's enough momentum, and we really give it a good look and see if we can get something on the table for us to consider. Could be next year. I still am uncomfortable with it, but again, open, and I want to serve and help. That we consider it next year to put in play. It'd be actually then it'd be the election cycle is when it would be put into play.
Which, the other side of that coin is it could complicate the matter.
Mayor or Lynn, either one, if we were to do something, maybe just for the council president, an extra stipend, is that doable? Or are we bound since we've already done the 3.5%?
Well, I prepared the budget, council budget, signed by the president, and it reflects a flat 3.5% raise for everybody, including the taxes, and so there would have to be additional appropriation.
Okay,
Well-
that's what I was curious.
There could be an additional appropriation, or you could just transfer money from some other line to the salaries, as long as it's in the ordinance by the end of the year. So say the council president gets a $500 raise, I think somewhere in the council budget, Mayor, there would be.
Point is, current budget doesn't support it.
Right.
So however you do it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was,
But there's several ways to do it, obviously.
okay.
Well, would anyone be opposed to that?
The other thing I just want to throw out is our next meeting is actually 3 weeks away, and if we're still dithering about whether or not we want to have us look into it, then you're not turning it over to the wage committee until almost the middle of October. So then that gives us maybe 4 weeks to do it.
Okay.
Which is not a lot of time.
No, it's not.
How would
not
it,
to
how
do
would
it.
it be if we agree to give the council president a $500 annual increase and then pass this as it is with that increase and shoot next year for what I called that once-in-a-decade bump, have the wage committee look into it and come back a year from now
Well,
with,
it would have to be stated on the salary ordinance exactly what that would be, so you can't write that in.
you know,
It would have to
I
be
know
written.
that, just an understanding that we're going to look at it for, like, I like Jeff's idea, let's look at it and maybe bring it in and make it for the next council, because it's really pretty much about that, to me.
Yeah, I think if you want to stay true to what we've done, it should be a stipend, and it should be paid quarterly, and it should be written in the ordinance, just like it is for any specialty license for, police and fire and stuff. So this ordinance would have to be changed. So it would have to be amended, I believe, correct, with that?
Well,
It hasn't been moved on.
Diane, I don't think that you can actually increase wages after you have adopted
Once
and
it's-
elected
yeah,
officials.
correct.
Once you vote and say this is it,
And
that's it for the year. You can't lower it.
Right.
I don't think you can increase it, but I would agree with your stipend analogy, because, you may,
But will that
switch halfway through
complicate
the
it
year or
if we
something.
next year decide to make it just part of the salary?
No,
it,
I wouldn't think so.
I
Yes.
agree with
Sounds like
what,
it would.
Yes,
right,
it
Okay.
needs to stay a
yeah,
stipend.
for budgetary purposes, it would probably make it just a little bit complicated to try to
Okay.
do something this year. I fully support your idea. We talked about just everything else of, let us gather some information and get the wage committee involved to really kind of look at some numbers, but that's not my decision.
Okay.
You all do such a good job. I mean, I know how hard you all work, so I'll do whatever anyone tells me to do.
I do believe the wage committee should look at any changes, and again, I think
I don't disagree.
we're going against the grain. We've established all these committees, the committees work all year during the budget cycle, and now we're saying in September, almost October 1st, that we want to change it and overhaul. So I think good discussion, and let's look that direction, but to change the direction we're going now with this ordinance and, well, with everything else that's already been done, I just don't think that's staying true to what we've been trying to do for years now, this board, so. And that takes me back, that's why I think we should take action on this ordinance as presented, at least first reading.
Have we ever had a conversation before about compensating the council president?
No.
Never once? Not in your 20,
No.
however many, no?
No, we never have.
We did as a wage committee, we looked at different.
But nothing's ever been brought and
Not like
presented in
Right.
this format?
I don't think we've ever had this conversation, period.
No, we
As long as
have.
I've been here.
No, we have, Mike.
Have
We-
we?
We've looked
We
at
have
it before the
several
wage
times.
committee, we've looked at it. I mean, I can
I mean,
remember
in
when I
public
was
like
my
this.
first term. Yeah,
Yeah.
my first term. I can remember.
Well, I wasn't here.
Discussions and all that kind of stuff, and
I meant
and then
since-
it's been talked about, but we've never
Mm-hmm.
made the major change. Never have.
Last time when you guys directed us to, and it was you, Mike, that asked us to look at it, we came up with the fact that comparing apples to apples with our benefit package, we were actually making more, and so we didn't change it.
Yeah, there was no action.
Yeah.
Due to the benefits.
Yep.
Yeah.
But some don't take them.
Right.
That's
So
their choice.
There is an inequity.
I'll say this, it might be oversharing in my personal life, but my full-time job employer, I save $5,000 a year by electing to take the city insurance. So that's added compensation, in my opinion, to what I'm already making. I feel like I'm more than compensated enough currently.
Yeah, with respect to the council's requirement to set the elected officials' wages, I think that, I personally feel it should be a recommendation from the wage committee to the council and not the other way around. But for whatever reason, we're at a point now where I think you all need to decide if you want to continue with the resolution in front of you, if you want to table it, because I don't think we're getting anywhere other than it's now understood that there is some uncertainty with what is being, how you all are being compensated. So,
Well, since I opened the conversation, let me say, I'm in agreement with Jeff, and I can live with this, knowing that the wage committee will look at it, and Jennifer will help them, and come back next year with something that I think is commensurate with the role we play and the work and the time we put in to the job. So I appreciate your level-headedness, and at least I kicked open the door. We can think about it.
so are you proposing to accept, or at least,
Since I did
Proposed
kick
ordinance
open the door, yeah, I'll make
2021-0904.
a motion to approve ordinance 2021-0904 as presented tonight for the first reading.
I'll second that.
all right, is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes unanimously. I might be afraid to ask this, but is there,
Mike, do you want to suspend the rules or not?
I will make a motion to suspend the rules for
As a member-
2021-0904.
As a member of the wage committee, I'd like to thank Mike Clondaris for that motion. I'll second it.
It is my pleasure.
Thanks, Mike.
all right, motion has been made and seconded. Are there any, on second reading for ordinance 2021-0904, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes
Okay,
unanimously.
Wait, that was just
Oh,
suspended.
that was suspension of rules, all right.
Suspension, yeah.
All right, go ahead.
Nice try.
I think the wage committee ought to take a bow
Go
here.
ahead, Cindy, you haven't done it yet.
What?
Yeah.
Make a motion to pass on second reading.
Okay, I make a motion to approve ordinance 2021-09-04 on second reading.
Motion been made, is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right.
Thank you very much.
Now, when the
Thank you,
mayor
Jennifer.
asks any further discussion and we say no, I want further discussion. I want you guys to talk about it. I want us to talk
Yeah.
about it. I think it's important. It's an important issue. But thank you for everybody,
Yeah.
to everybody.
All right. Are there any other matters to come before the council? All right. Any items to be carried forward? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Thank you. All right. Lynn, do we have anything to
Deer
sign?
reduction efforts have
Thanks,
started.
Scott.
4 deer have been taken.
Four?
Right,
Excellent.
I see about a half a dozen of them in
Four.
along the road.
They're everywhere.
But there's been about 20, I think 20 efforts where the archers, because they log every time they go out.
Sure.
4 have been taken.